Hey y'all,
You're listening to the What Would She Think podcast.
I'm Dani.
And I'm Angie.
We're a mother and daughter duo. We look forward to sharing the parallels on our life's experiences. Join us as we learn more about our views on how life has taken us on a wild ride.
This podcast is made to offer listeners a safe space to understand and discuss all the non-traditional new roles,
And breaking generational traumas
how we managed to turn our mother-daughter relationship from barely surviving
to thriving.
In today's episode, we will be discussing Peer Pressure, Family Edition.
We'll be having a special guest,
My lovely partner,
Catalina.
Hi, everyone.
You might be familiar with peer pressure. You might even have been told how to handle it.
But have you ever been taught how to handle peer pressure from family members? No, I don't think you did. Because there was situations where I didn't know what to do because they were family members. And there were a lot of those.
Has anyone ever guilted you into talking to someone that you didn't want to?
Yes, and I always felt guilty and obligated to just because of their family title. There are some situations that I remember where I would get gaslit or manipulated into talking to that somebody again when I would try and cut them out. And it was always, they miss you, they feel bad from somebody else, not them.
So you felt that you had to talk to them because...
I heard how sad they were, and I heard how upset they were. And I heard about all the things that they were apparently going to do.
So gaslighting.
Exactly.
So for those who don't know, can you explain a little bit more what gaslighting is?
Making you and your emotions feel invalid.
That's a major one.
And like you're just crazy, you're just imagining it. It's all you. That is exactly what gaslighting is.
I feel like that happens a lot with people who aren't even in the two individuals who are going through it. Like
an outside party.
An outside party, exactly. Like, let's say if it's a husband and wife, somebody from the outside trying to explain how it is in the relationship when they're not even in there.
Mm-hmm.
So that happened with you for somebody who's not even one of the two parties.
Yes.
Making their opinions of how
this relationship should be dealt with.
Not putting it into account how you're feeling and what you're getting from the other person.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Just how they felt.
I think that's very inconsiderate. I feel that needs to be addressed more in more families because you always get that pressure of you need to talk to them, they're family.
Exactly.
Family is family, but when it comes to a person's mental health, when it comes to situations that other people don't know about,
family isn't always blood.
No. Family is who you choose it to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel that title of blood family is held on too high of a standard when there has either been trauma, abuse, gaslighting, all those things. Other people don't take they just say, well, they're family, you need to.
Especially when an outside party is involved and they only see one person's view or emotions or sadness or whatever, that also can take a toll on you.
Well, I think that also has to do when that person is manipulating the situation and victimizing the scenario. So most of the time that'll happen when it's a parent to that person or an adult older,
they're enabling their
exactly. Enabling is the word I was thinking. They're definitely enabling the behavior to victimize themselves when the facts prove that that's an unhealthy relationship.
Mm-hmm. Was there ever people that you ever felt like you were obligated or guilty to talk to?
I think maybe when I was younger, my biological dad, I felt a little bit pressure to talk to him.
Like on the phone?
Like on the phone, but it was just suggested and it wasn't too much pressure where I absolutely had to. But I think because I didn't grow up being raised by him, that I didn't feel I had to.
Like the necessary feeling?
Yeah. Like I didn't feel the guiltiness of it. Like I talked to him when I talked to him, and now I talk to him more often now as an adult, and we communicate more. But it's not one of those that I felt pressured too much. But that's literally the only thing I can't think of another scenario. But that doesn't mean that it didn't happen. But you also see like how people talk about like the creepy uncles and how you're pressured into, hugging them or talking to them, like go sit next to them and, you need to
Say
give them a hug.
hi.
Yeah. When,
Even if it's just on the phone.
yeah, because that uncomfortableness can still be there.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, I agree.
My Catalina, what about you? Do you have any experience in any peer pressure from family members that you want to share?
There have been many scenarios in my family where I felt very pressured to talking to certain family members. One being my uncle, and that still goes on today, of he's your uncle, he's your blood relative, he was there for you when you lost your dad, and he really wasn't, but they say he was. And I need to keep him in my life because I'm going to miss that bond between him and I. And I tell them every single day, no, this is what I'm comfortable with, of distancing myself and not seeing him all the time and not talking to him. When we interact, we don't talk. We see each other and I look down at my phone. He goes and does his business. And it's very annoying that my family is pulling and pulling and tugging, and they don't understand the guilt you do feel from it. And it is a very real guilt. They think, oh, you don't feel guilty for it, otherwise you talk to that person. But it does eat at you sometimes. That
Sometimes even maybe you get another guilty feeling, especially if they have mental illnesses.
that's another form of gaslighting they can use.
Definitely.
Of, hey, they're struggling with this mental illness right now. You need to help them with this. And my uncle certainly struggles with his mental illnesses, but
I don't think a child should be responsible to help an adult.
exactly, it should not be my problem to fix him. And if it is up to me to fix him, that is so confusing why it's up to a 16-year-old to fully fix my uncle when he could
He's
easily
a grown
get help.
adult.
He's a grown adult. He could get help himself.
Do you feel that it's more one of those that they excuse his behavior or excuse the things that have happened? Because it sounds like it's been an unhealthy relationship, that there's been scenarios that have happened.
They excuse it a lot. Many things have happened with him, and it's clear that it is toxic and unhealthy things that a normal uncle would not be doing. And they use, oh, well, he's expressing his emotions at the time, or he's working through this, he's struggling through this, you need to cut him slack. And
You do.
I try to cut him slack of like, oh, well, he did this for this reason, maybe I can let it slide this time. But after a while you get
There's a line to draw.
You need to draw a line of just like, hey, I cannot handle this anymore, and to better myself, which is most important, I need space between this person and I. And I love my family to death, but they don't respect that at all.
I'm sorry. Do you feel that? Oh, well, one, I commend you on your maturity, because it's very mature of you to put yourself and your feelings and your, traumas, not to the side, but to be able to move on and just be around your family members. Do you feel that that's happened with other people in your family, that you feel pressure that you have to?
There are other family members. My cousins on one side of my family have said before that they don't particularly like me. And my mom, I don't know what she gets in her head of, oh, they were just messing around. They don't really mean it. They just do things because that's how they are. And she still makes me fully interact with them and hug them. And that is a big thing in my life,
That
where
sounds like a big boundary.
if I don't feel comfortable around someone, especially if they admitted, hey, I don't want to be around you, I don't want to hug them, I don't want to let them near in my space and in my bubble.
I think that's really important for more parents to be more considerate of that. And exactly what you were just saying, that really frustrates me because you're excusing other people's bad behavior and just making it seem like, oh, well, it's okay. They can do all this bad, but you still have to do this. I think
Exactly.
that's where the pressure, like, it's so toxic.
It's not, it's, I don't understand sometimes why parents feel the need to put that pressure on their kids of if I need to have a perfect life or
Well, I don't think they put themselves in the scenario. How would they feel if they were being forced to talk to other people? I mean, I think very easily parents could just say, well, I do it too. But then it's like, well, do you really feel that you have to? Like, why would you be forced in this scenario to talk to other people or interact with them just because they have a title in your family doesn't just automatically mean that they have to be a part of your life or interaction. Mental health is such a big thing nowadays, and if it's really affecting that because of there's either trauma, abuse, or gaslighting, like those things really need to be like stopped. And I think it needs to be more of a conversation for family members to really talk to their kids and really talk to their parents about how it's really unhealthy to keep those toxic relationships just because of titles.
Exactly.
that is a fair point. And especially with saying, hey, I went through it, I don't think, and they went through it enough at that point. Not to say that their trauma is invalid, but when you feel uncomfortable in your life, you don't want another person that you care about to feel uncomfortable. And that just makes me think my mom has never been with a family member that truly made her feel the ever most uncomfortable she could feel and push her boundaries.
One thing I kind of see that it's a pattern is the older generation puts that above the comfort level of a person. So older generations definitely go through that when you're talking about, you know, your generation, my generation, my, you know, our parents' generation and their parents' generation. You know, the older generations definitely feel that we just have to suck it up and go through it
Just because of their family titles.
just because of titles. But I really love that this generation is now speaking more, you know, speaking out more about it and kind of putting a stop to it because toxicness in families is a serious thing.
It doesn't
And
just happen outside of families.
no, it happens in families, and you shouldn't just allow it just because it's a family member.
Mm-hmm.
That's
It doesn't make
good
it more
point.
acceptable.
No.
Just because they have a certain title or they're
Or
blood
even,
related to you does not give it any excuse of, hey, this is completely okay.
no matter how, like, high their title is, mother, father, uncle, whatever.
Even, you know, grandparents, you get that that pressure of, well, they're getting older. Well, yes, but just because
Exactly.
they're older doesn't excuse their bad behavior and mean that you have to keep them, you know, in your inner circle or have to physically be around them.
No, definitely. You shouldn't have to feel obligated no matter age or title.
Yeah, I think excusing bad behavior just because of
It enables it.
that's a huge that's what a big stickler for me is people enabling other people's bad behavior,
Mm-hmm.
especially with grown people.
Oh, yeah, that is a
You would
big
think
topic.
you would think they would know something because normally they use like, oh, they're older, they know better.
Well, yeah, because we tell that to children. The
Mm-hmm.
older children, we tell them, you know better, you need to do better compared to smaller siblings. But why does that stop when it becomes an adult? The
Exactly.
adult should know better. But that
Exactly.
sounds like definitely another episode that we need to fully talk about that one.
That
Yes.
definitely sounds like another episode because there is so much more you could go into of, hey, we tell our smaller children this, but the minute you become an adult, you don't have to follow it at all. Is what I
Exactly.
feel like this older generation has kind of preached on to the younger ones. Like, you're the kid, but once you become an adult, you can
It kind
do
of goes
this.
into like the good old boy system where like the older generational men used to do all these things and it was okay because they were, oh yeah, we're definitely going to get into that one.
Yes,
Stay
definitely.
tuned for that one. You know, one thing I actually wanted to talk to you about, Angie, was So we touched on gaslighting. I definitely feel the older generations definitely have a bigger habit of gaslighting in all sorts of things because that's what they're used to doing. But I actually wanted to talk to you girls about inheriting religion. Everyone's born into a religion, and I've always felt very
Pressured?
well, not pressured, but I didn't feel the pressure once I became older to actively be a part of it, as far as like you have to do this. I was Catholic, am Catholic. I mean, I believe in God, but I can't really grasp the active part of it, as far as going to church every week, you know,
Like the maintain the schedule.
like the constant praising. I haven't found that within myself. So I can't say that I lost my religion because I still believe in God. Like I know there's a God, but I also, consider, in different cultures where they have many gods, like the gods of the sun and the moon and things like that. And I feel that kind of like grounds my mind sometimes when I think about it. So I've always considered maybe looking more into that. But I've also always felt with you guys, my children, that
There was never one specific one that you had to like remember your this.
yeah, I never put that daily pressure because we didn't go to church or we don't go to church on a weekly basis. But if
We
you,
did try when we were younger.
yeah, but you guys were always too loud, and so it became a hassle. And you guys were always begging for snacks while we were at church or games or on board, and so that was always hard. But
We had to go to the quiet room.
we were even in the quiet room. You guys were loud. But when I've gone to church, I usually end up crying because I feel some sort of connection. But am I right that you didn't feel pressured into you have to do this or you have
Yeah.
to do that,
And
as
you
far
have to
as
follow one certain religion.
like that constant pressure of, let's say, like you're Catholic or you're Christian, you have to do this and you have to,
Yeah.
or you can't do this because you're Christian.
Yeah.
Kind of
No, I
like
never felt that.
even just coming out, like that's against some religions. And so,
Yeah. Definitely. I did not feel like that at all. It was really easy because I never was like, oh my God, so many consequences are gonna happen because I have to follow these certain religion rules.
so I've always felt that we've been very open with our religion as far as if you choose, even if you were to choose to change your religion, I think I would support you, right? Do you feel
Yes,
supported?
I do feel supported if I were to change it or come to you and feel that a certain religion isn't working for me personally. Have you ever felt pressured by family members to stay Christian?
Many of times, and I love my religion. I truly do. I have a connection, I feel, with it. But I truly think about, hey, if I wasn't raised around my grandparents who are a very, very big Christians, how would I have come to God and how would have I been connected with this religion? If say I was an like atheist where I just had my mom and we didn't believe in anything and she just she didn't give me a sort of a religion path to follow on, would I still be a Christian? Would have I felt that connection to God? And it is a struggle sometimes because, like I said, I do love my religion, but I want to feel my own connection to God. And I
Not
love.
a forced one?
Do you feel that pressure coming from your grandparents
Yes.
on the level of your Christianity?
Yes. And especially with the rules kind of people talk about.
This podcast is funded by buymeacoffee.com/twistofviolet.
With a membership, you will have access to exclusive content, behind the scenes, and a bonus video podcast a month.
As a lesbian in my religion, that is another thing that some people do struggle with, I believe, of, hey, this goes against the rules they have for you. And I hate calling it rules because I personally believe that God doesn't want us to have rules in our life. He wants us to have boundaries and order. And that should just be a part of all life and not just, oh, you have to do this in the morning, you have to do this at night. And especially with being a lesbian, that is very hard of hearing, you're going to go to hell. You're going to go to hell for this. And
because you believe so deeply in God. You do
yes.
have such a deep connection with your faith.
And such a high matter for his opinion.
Yeah, you care about that.
Yes.
So Christianity, we could say there's all sorts of types or levels. Well, no, not levels.
Okay.
I guess personal levels.
Personal levels is a very good word, because I believe each Christian, you do reach a certain level at some times. And some people, they call them baby Christians. They start out just getting into the religion, and then you have the people who've been in there for a while and maybe they're struggling with it and they're starting to do better. Then you have the people who are like fully
the older generation been taught the Bible from
cover
start to finish,
cover.
cover. Yeah.
Yes. And those people, they may have raised some of us, but now that times have changed,
that's a big one that needs to evolve.
It does need to evolve, because in the Bible, there's a scripture that talks about if you cut your hair, it's a sin. Nowadays, we go to haircuts regularly. We need them regularly. And I don't think that's fair that because we need to do something regularly or because it's what we want us to do, we're sinning. And a lot of people forget that a lot of basic things back during those times were sins. And nowadays, it's just part of our everyday lives where they're like, oh, well, that doesn't count because that happened so long ago back then. And it doesn't make sense, because my grandparents have actually said that to me of, well, that happened way back when. We don't need to worry about it now because it's modern. And I don't understand why the same things don't apply to
everything else.
And
if that
especially
evolves.
now.
Especially if that evolves. And there are some things that need to stay how they are, with like the 10 commandments of
it's not good to murder people.
It's not good to murder people.
It's
and
not good to
don't
steal,
and exactly.
All the things that apply on being a good person,
but those should also just be common sense of, hey, you don't need to murder someone. That is not that's just in general, don't do that. And a lot of the 10 commandments are our laws nowadays, of just a regular day law of, hey, don't steal, don't commit murder. But I still don't understand why it couldn't apply to being gay sometimes, and especially in Christianity and in other religions. I know they have their beliefs and how strict they are, but with Christianity, it's truly just so dumbfounding how someone can say to you, hey, you're gonna go to hell for this, but they believe in a religion of love everyone. And
it's like a double standard.
It's a double standard. And especially being very hypocritical with a lot of the things they say of, oh, God will love you with whatever you do, no matter what sin you commit. But if you're gay, you go straight to hell. Those two things,
there's
totally
no
complete opposites.
Complete opposite of. With being in that certain religion of Christianity and being a lesbian, if you come out to certain people, they don't take it seriously of just, oh, you're going through a phase. Oh, sweetheart, that's the devil. I've heard that many times. Or, don't worry, you're still young. And I feel mainly pressured by my grandparents of, hey, there's a boy I saw at church. He looks your age. He looks very cute. He probably will be the perfect husband for the rest of your life. Of, hey, you need to really go date this guy. And
so the pressure from your grandparents to have a boyfriend, to like already trying to lead you off into that direction, even though that's not how you feel authentically.
Oh, yeah. And I haven't fully come out to them. I haven't personally with my words said, hey, I have a girlfriend, but they know because my mom has told them before of, hey, they have a crush on a girl and they're going to start dating
So it's
them.
just full denial.
It's full denial of, oh, it won't last long. And my grandparents, even if I probably personally was like, hey, grandma, I'm fully gay, I'm a lesbian, I'm sure you already knew that, but I just wanted to confirm it, she would be like,
No, you're not.
no, you're not. I know that's not true. And I know that's just something you're going through. And mainly that might be why I'm not fully coming out to her, because I don't see the point in it of I'm just going to get,
Yeah.
we'll fix you, or we'll do this.
Yeah.
Or we're going to take you to church.
We're going to pray more over you.
Yeah. So
We're going to pray for you.
that's a big
There's so many things that people say, and I know it's just you trying to respond in the right way, but even with like some people, they don't say the right things, and it does affect, because it does have that effect because of their religion, that they're just believing in something. Maybe it's not always the healthiest thing to believe, but
Yeah, especially when they're in denial, when they're not wanting to hear the literal exact words that you're trying to communicate to them because they're so fixated on what they expect of you.
Oh,
They
yes.
expect you to get married, they expect for you to have kids, but they expect it with with the male
The boy
craze.
craze and the boy questions always start weirdly young.
Very young.
Very young.
Like,
just to instill it in your head that you're supposed to have a boyfriend.
you're supposed to get married and have kids. I don't know. I don't think it's just a Mexican culture thing.
I don't think it is.
I think that happens, in a lot of cultures, but, you and I being both Mexican, I definitely remember always hearing for the females from family members, you're when are you going to get married? When are you going to have kids? Or once you learn how to cook, oh, you can get married now. They expect for you to.
This is the one good quality you have to have.
Yeah, so you can cook for your husband.
Right.
That's the lead
No.
off. Once you learn how to cook, now you can get married.
Okay, you can move out now, apparently.
So, yeah.
And most of them learn how to cook really young.
Right. I mean, yes, it's a good quality, but it's not just meant for cooking for your,
your husband when he gets home from a long day of work.
Yeah, no. But there's definitely that expected pressure of when you're going to have a boyfriend, or even going to college.
Oh, definitely. There was a lot of pressure for me still to go to college. Obviously, I still have some time to decide, but there's still that pressure of if you don't go, this and this will happen. You're not going to have a future. You're not going to have a future. Everything is going to go wrong in your life.
Yeah.
From us, mainly older family members.
Yeah, and I understand that education is important, but
yes,
let's say you were to get a degree and it was just a degree that you felt pressured to get into, and then you don't do anything with it.
you do it to satisfy other people, basically.
Yeah, then you have a degree, and then what? It's not something you want to, work with the rest of your life. Then you've wasted your time and your money just to make somebody else happy. Exactly. I think if you do decide to go to college, it has to be a career path and plan
that you want.
That you want, not that you are doing just because you're expected to by another party.
Mm-hmm. I agree. No, you want to go to college.
I mean, I do want to go to college, but I kind of have the opposite of y'all, as where I was raised to be more of a housewife than anything of like.
That's the pressure you're feeling.
My grandma and my grandpa were very big on, like y'all said, putting that into your head at a young age. I wasn't even allowed to like blue when I was younger because it was too much like a boy color. And from the minute I learned how to speak and how to walk, they wanted to start training me, per se, of
basically
doing things, of doing the dishes, doing the laundry. My grandma, when I was younger, she'd only get me toys that had to do with chores, of like a baby vacuum, a baby iron, a baby kitchen set, so I can learn how to wash dishes.
Those quote unquote gender roles are only applied to females and not applied to boys.
Yes.
Of course not.
And I would always ask them, I'm like, well, why is my husband not going to be doing some of this? Why do I have to be doing all the work?
I think that should have been a telltale sign.
of they would just respond with, well, that's what you have to do. That's what you're going to do in your part. And it just amazed me. Now it amazes me of just he can't wash his own dish. Of like, that's what I thought when I was younger, of why isn't my husband going to be washing his own dishes if he's the one who dirtied them up? Because that was also what I was taught. You made the mess, you clean it up.
Exactly.
And I was like, well, what is he going to be doing all day? And they're going to be like, he's going to be hard at work doing the most important job to make sure you're taken care of and you have a beautiful life. And I kind of got in my head, oh, I'm not going to contribute anything. This will just be an easy job. And I'm so grateful that when my dad died, he left me college money to be able to do that. And my mom, thankfully, was big on, hey, maybe they do need to try college and maybe I should put this into a college fund. And I'm so grateful she did, because now I do have the option of going to college.
You have that choice to make.
And I definitely want to go to college. I have big plans for my future, and one of them does not involve marrying a guy, and it doesn't involve marriage until later down in the road. And that's the other thing of, hey, get married early. Definitely. That was what I was always told, of like, get married at like 20, 21. That'll be a good ages. Now I want to wait till at least 25, of just making sure I have a stable future and everything is going okay.
I think that's the one thing that, you know, we all have gone through, is that pressure of your choices being taken away because you're expected to do this and you have to follow it. And it coming from, you know, either our parents or our other adults in our life.
Even being expected to see somebody
Because
of their family title.
Yeah, that's a big thing where you're forced into, you have to see them for this, like, what, holiday event or
family get together
or traditional event.
So when it comes to having a co-parenting situation and having to see family members from one side when you want to be with the other side, or feeling obligated to choose which family side, and depending on who you choose, is apparently who it comes across as you like more, and who's the favorite parent, and that's another thing.
So you get the peer pressure of where you spend your time, or when you have to spend time with the other party.
You get from the other side, or even that side, that, oh, we're the favorite. Oh, you prefer to be with us more. You don't want to be with them. And then they'll gaslight you into telling you you like being with them. You don't want to be with the other side of the family.
Yeah, that pressure of co-parenting and having to be with other family members
We have to be with like 4 different families, 5, 6 different families.
And that also comes a lot from divorced families. Like, I grew up in a divorced family. I didn't have to go with the other party, but then you have to spend time with both mom's side and dad's side. And then, you know, it's whole, and then their, you know, cousin's side. And so there's a bunch of different events where you have to go just because it's, you know, it's, well, you can't leave my family out. How are you going to leave my family out?
Exactly. Because if you leave that side of the family out, then they're going to get offended. And then they find out you hung out with the other side.
Yeah, that's a whole nother, like, pressure. I think, I know we talked about peer pressure from family members, but I definitely feel like a lot of this also is / gaslighting.
Gaslighting parents, narcissist family members.
Yeah, that's tough. And especially when they use their role as a hierarchy or a,
I'm this, so you have to listen to me.
Exactly. That's tough.
And even responses like that, like,
because people will say that.
You have to listen to me because I have this role in your life.
People will say that.
People say that.
And that's so...
not true.
That's so toxic.
Like the just because answers with no explanation, it just leaves the kid wondering why.
I do that a lot. Darn.
You do?
I do the, you have to listen to this rule in the house because I said so.
It's not like it's not like whenever I say it, I'm not trying to talk back. I just want an explanation. And I can see how maybe a tone
I do that a lot with rules in the house.
Because I said so.
Because I said so.
I just want to know why. Have an explanation. I'd be like, okay, I'm not going to do this because of this.
Well, I think when I say that, when I don't want to have to explain, it's more of I'm trying to get you to do the good habits because you're supposed to.
Because I'm told to once.
Yeah. Like, well, why do I have to pick up my dishes? Because I said so is basic response, but it's because I want to teach you to be, tidy and clean up after yourself.
Exactly.
But
so those responses.
But I definitely have said before because I said so, just because I don't want to fully explain.
And hey, sometimes you're tired. I don't want to give this kid all my explanation.
Or because I've told you for the 1,000th time to pick up your toys off the floor.
Probably.
Or to pick up your dishes from
for
your
the
room.
1,000th time.
/ Eric. Oh my goodness. So we talked a lot about gaslighting, but I think we will definitely touch on that on a different subject.
Definitely.
I want to touch one last thing on if you ever felt forced to try something that you weren't comfortable trying.
Yes, that can relate to a lot of things, like food, and
You've been forced to try food?
definitely force of trying food.
Like eating
Especially
your vegetables?
like no. But like new, like exotic things, yes, you want to try them. But if you're really not in the moment and you know in the moment that you don't want to eat it, but you're still being forced to eat it.
Like respecting the boundary of I don't want to try this.
And you, especially when you know you don't like it.
Yeah.
Like if you know you don't like carrots, or you don't want to try carrot cake.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of the respect factor of respecting somebody's boundaries. But because it's either an adult or
it gets flied by.
Yeah. And it goes to I'm the authority, so therefore you're expected to listen to that authority. And it'll touch on all things, even as small as trying a food that you won't feel comfortable eating.
That's sad when they can't even respect something as little as a food boundary.
That's a lot.
I agree. Have you ever been forced to try food?
As you said, carrots. Those have been a living nightmare for me. My grandma, when I was younger, I knew I did not like carrots. Based off the smell of how it made me nauseous, I knew I didn't like them. And it wasn't just...
But you liked other vegetables,
I
right?
liked other vegetables. I liked green beans. I liked broccoli. I liked cauliflower. I loved asparagus. It wasn't just like me like not being like, oh, well, I don't want to eat my vegetables because sugar tastes so much better or something like that. It genuinely just, I knew I did not like carrots. And my grandma forced me to eat them a lot. And they would make me sick. They would make me physically sick. And she would tell me, well, you better not be sick from them. And like you said, it's sad that they can't respect simple boundaries because you know your body and you know what your body's going to like. And it just goes to show that they will even make you question, well, do I really know myself? Do they know me better? And your mom raises you, or whoever guardian does raise you, but in all, you know yourself the best, and they need to respect that.
And even having foods too much. Like if they see that you used to eat something perfectly fine and now you're not, now you don't like the taste of it, your taste can change. And it is okay to expand but not limit your
You're
palate.
expected to expand but not limit your palate. Well,
exactly.
I mean, the tastes can change. And I think pressuring a small child can give a trauma effect.
Absolutely.
Because as an adult, we expand our palate and it's fine. But
when you're forced to, it loses its meaning.
Yeah, because it adds a layer of trauma.
But even with like the trauma aspect, one of those things could be of a person now being indecisive when they're older because they get questioned at a young age with just basic food items. Hey, you really do like that. You're just not letting yourself try it because you want this or something like that. Makes you question like, hey, oh, do I really like this or am I just telling myself other things?
When they tell you you like something and you don't like something, like, it definitely makes you think and question your own decisions.
Absolutely. And that's a big thing with like boundaries of why even if you have that power, you don't need to
overstep.
I think you touched on something though, because you said that was coming from your grandmother, not even your mother or your father,
yeah.
not the parent, but an outside party, just because they're an adult, telling you you have to do this, you have to do it. It's like, well, if my mom was listening to you, she wouldn't be happy with what you're doing, or and nobody's perfect. Some people do that too. I've definitely make you eat your meats and your proteins.
Mm-hmm.
But I learned as you're growing when it comes to food, as you and I have both struggled with food disorders, which we'll get to on another topic. That's definitely a big one, that you have to respect a person's boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's another adult telling you, hey, you have to do this, that's definitely a red flag. So as we wrap up today's episode, what's one thing that is the big takeaway for you?
What I learned that is family members that don't respect your boundaries can be very toxic. What did you learn, Mom?
My biggest takeaway with this is how I feel I should have prepared you younger, how to deal with peer pressure from family members. I feel that now with our communication skills that we're definitely working on that now, from now into the future. But I definitely feel that,
like, the pressure of like a young kid having to hug a certain family member.
Yeah, like I really feel that I should have prepared you younger for these scenarios. But I mean, I was younger and I didn't really realize that I should have, but I definitely like take a step back now and wish that you hadn't had to go through the things that you went through, or were at least better equipped and better able to handle them.
Mm-hmm.
For your safety and for your sanity.
I agree.
I love you, Angie.
I love you.
Thank you, Catalina. Do you have a takeaway on our episode today?
My takeaway was gaslighting and peer pressure have the same qualities, especially when it comes from a family member.
Mm-hmm.
Of like when they excuse behavior just because they're adults or because they again are your blood and they're your family. And
certain close titles,
that is one big thing.
Well, on that note, thank you for listening to our podcast. Thank you, Kat, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We loved having you in our episode today.
I love doing this.
We will be back next Wednesday with a brand new episode.
And make sure you check out our social media. Follow us on Instagram at whatwouldshethinkpodcast. And we will have our poll question up for our next topic. And
we hope you enjoyed today's episode. We will be back next Wednesday. Bye.
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 This podcast is funded by buymeacoffee.com/twistofviolet.
With a membership, you will have access to exclusive content, behind the scenes, and a bonus video podcast a month.
The podcast theme song is composed by Philip Tamez.